Welcome to Newsmax TV. I'm Kathleen Walter. With us now on the phone is Representative Steve Stockman, Republican from Texas, and a member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. And Representative Stockman, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Kathleen, for having me.
Well, let's start with a developing story, and that is the reports that the Syrian regime of Bashar al-Assad has killed hundreds in that country's worst-known chemical weapons attack. This occurs almost a year after President Obama warned Assad against this, saying that it would cross a red line. Do you see Assad forcing Obama's hand here?
Yeah, the president just changed the green line, or that he said he was warning about. And it's funny, he used a vernacular which usually a president doesn't use, which is if he continues to use a lot more chemical weapons. So in other words, he's acknowledging that the Syrians use chemical weapons, but now they have to use a lot more in order to trigger that basis for action. I think that there should not. That area is very complicated, but I think we should probably eliminate some of their planes, keep them from using weapons of mass destruction.
And how would we go about doing that?
Well, we have the ability, as you know, to take a quick strike at some of the planes, or even give some of the people down there on our ground. I believe we have allies on the ground. It's just that it's a mess. He's created a mess, so either side we choose is going to be ridiculously bad. But on the other hand, the gassing your own people is pretty horrific and really, really terrible. But we primarily have this because we have an indecisive president who's sending mixed messages to everyone in the Middle East, and he's really created a tinderbox that's going to, I think, be inflamed from years from now, and we'll be paying for his indecisiveness.
And you're saying that absolutely it is time for military intervention here?
Well, no, not us military intervention, but we have other ways of doing it. You can strike it from as Ronald Reagan did with cruise missiles and things like that, but you don't want. Or you could have your, like I said, sympathizers on the ground. The fact is, though, is using the chemical weapons is horrific way to die, and it's really without any kind of response, you're going to have a spreading of the use of chemical weapons. And in that area, there's a lot of people that have those chemical weapons. And in the first Gulf War, we found Saddam Hussein just stockpiled literally tons and tons of chemical weapons. So Iran and all that area has quite a few chemical weapons.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, at the very least, should NATO impose a no-fly zone over Syria?
No, I don't know. I don't know if we should do that, but I do think that they have a limited number of planes, and if you start taking out their planes via a handheld or shoulder-held weapons, it's going to get them their attention. They're not going to want to jeopardize using more chemical weapons. So it doesn't have to be necessarily United States involvement, but we can do something that keeps them from taking out that kind of measure on their own people.
Let's switch gears real quickly. This week, Secretary of State John Kerry reinstated 4 State Department staffers demoted by Secretary Clinton over Benghazi. How do you view this move?
I think it's cynical. It was. I don't think they ever intended to punish anybody. I think it was window dressing to get the heat off Hillary. Right now, we had 2 hearings in which witnesses were intimidated. I believe they were intimidated. The list was the Democrats released the name of the witnesses prior to the hearing, and all of them decided not to testify. There's reports now that they're giving actually witness protection, changing the names of some of the people. It's really a devious and, quite frankly, cynical move on the part of this administration to literally give people a vacation. 4 Americans are dead, and the only response here is coming up on a year from now is silence. We really need a special prosecutor to get to the bottom of what happened in Benghazi.
Yeah, that was my next question for you. You think we need a select committee to investigate Benghazi?
Yeah, we actually, I'm the congressman who's doing a discharge petition to force the speaker to appoint a special prosecutor. Frank Wolf is the congressman who wrote the bill from Virginia, and my bill forces or demands that the Speaker appoints a special prosecutor. And I'm hoping as we come up on the anniversary, along with these cynical moves that were done, by the way, when Congress was not in session, that we try to build some pressure on the Speaker to appoint a special prosecutor.
Why do you think the Speaker's been reluctant to do so far?
That I don't know. We've asked many times, and he said the time isn't right. He said, I don't know when the time is right for him. I think if you had 4 dead congressmen, there'd been a special prosecutor from day one. Or if you had some relatives of congressmen that were killed, there'd probably be a special prosecutor. Mm-hmm. This kind of concerns me that we can't get it together enough to appoint someone to investigate the murder of 4 Americans.
Turning to Egypt now, the Obama administration will not confirm reports that it has begun withholding aid to Egypt. What insight do you have here, and should we pull the plug on aid to Egypt?
Well, we have 2 of our allies in the region are Saudi Arabia, which is not a democracy, and Israel, which is a democracy. And it's unusual you ever see a Jewish state and a Muslim state agree, but both those states, which are both American allies, are asking us not to interfere in the internal politics of Egypt. I tend to lean on that side. By jumping in ahead of time, you can only cut off aid once to a nation, and we use our one card we have left. And I think it was a mistake, and you have a senator from South Carolina who keeps talking about really saying that it's a failed state. It's not a failed state, and we need to be careful on which side we choose. A lot of the Muslim Brotherhood are burning churches right now, and ironically, that's the side that the administration is falling on.
Yeah, what's your assessment of how the Obama administration has handled the Egypt crisis?
Well, I think as he has as a senator, he was indecisive. He voted present many times, and I almost feel like in foreign policy he's voting present. He's sending, right now his State Department says one thing, he says another. No one really knows what exactly his foreign policy is on Egypt. Clearly, I think we need to stand back and not get involved, but he's sending signals that he's getting involved, and that in turn would, I think, alienate a lot of our allies in the region.
Today we learned that the NSA surveillance program has actually been collecting thousands of internet communications with no terror connection. The NSA program also supposedly has the capability to spy on 75% of online traffic. What's your take on this, considering that the NSA has only limited legal authority to spy on U.S. citizens?
Well, I was a co-author or co-sponsor of the Amash Amendment, which would have restricted the NSA. It's an ironic thing. We recently in the the Science Committee, we had to subpoena documents from the government. It seems that the government wants information but won't give us information. And repeatedly, we have a government that's grown ever bigger. My alarm now is that we're going to have an agency like the NSA collecting all the medical records for every man, woman, and child. So now they have our phone records, our internet records, and soon they'll have our medical records. And this is something I've been speaking out against. It's a mistake that this Obamacare now collects personal information on your health care records. This is a train wreck in the process. That's, I think, once people realize what's going to go on, they're going to really resent it.
Last question for you, Representative, is on immigration reform, which is a huge issue for your home state of Texas. Yesterday, Representative Bob Goodlatte, who is moving ahead with a piecemeal approach to immigration in the House, said that the House will act on immigration, but that there will be no special pathway to citizenship, which Democrats want. Do you think that we'll have an immigration law this year?
I hope not. It's always amusing to me the states which advocate what they call immigration reform, is a Orwellian word, that are not on border states. You have a congressman from Minnesota, Wisconsin, Ohio, Virginia, all directing on how we should handle our immigration problem, while states on the borders, Texas, Arizona, and California, we have very little say in it, and I think it's a mistake to do anything prior to securing our borders.
All right, Representative Steve Stockman, Republican from Texas, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Kathleen.
And thank you for watching Newsmax TV.